Now let's talk about some advanced options when you're looking at this contract, what you might want to extract from it. You might want to look at the financial terms of the contract. Now here we're not talking about replacing your accounting system. That is an entirely different objective. Here we're talking about summarizing the financial terms of the agreement so that you can report on it and understand it relative to the rest of the contract portfolio. Not necessarily tracking every purchase order and invoice and whatnot related to the contract, although you might want to do that too. And then what provisions of the contract matter? It's not just that we have a confidentiality agreement, it's that there are specific provisions and obligations in there that we care about. When you're looking at financial terms, if you're taking that one document and you're trying to extract information, what are you looking for? You're looking for all the payment provisions. Which party has to pay the other party, what amount, on what schedule, and under what terms. Capturing those as payment terms would be important as part of this financial bucket of things that you're going to harvest. The next is if there is any kind of an interest rate calculation, if this is a loan or there are penalties associated that are calculated based on interest or anything, how are interest rates calculated in this agreement and capturing those specifically. If there are provisions or schedules, exhibits, amendments that talk about pricing changes and when prices might change under what circumstances, definitely want to grab those because those are important revenue and expense control opportunities. Any discounts or behaviors or conduct that would lead to a discount, either for you or the other party, really useful to categorize. And then finally, we want to think about floors and ceilings. What do we mean, floors and ceilings? What we mean is a floor is a point at which prices or terms or payments can't fall below. The purchaser of supplies must buy at least $100,000 in supply a year to get these prices. That's a floor. A ceiling is prices can increase every year up to X amount. That X is a ceiling. So looking at floors and ceilings of financial terms is really important so that you accurately report what the real risk is. It's not that prices will increase forever at any rate. There is a ceiling. And often there's a floor as well. They won't fall below a certain amount. There might be other financial terms that matter to you on the particular contract or your organization, but these are some examples of very common financial terms you might want to track and understand from a particular contract. Financial provisions are a kind of provision, but when we're thinking about those non-financial provisions, what we're looking for are specific obligations of the parties. One party must do something or not to do something. And those actions really fall into three buckets. You can be required to do something. You must do this. You can be permitted to do it. Party B may terminate the contract under certain circumstances, and you might be prohibited from doing something. And those obligations can change depending on the conditions. For example, if we talk about our disclosure agreement, we start in the upper right. So we have a prohibition. The language says, we shall not disclose confidential information of the other party. But we may disclose information of the other party if we learned it from an independent source or had access to it directly. So what was a prohibition became a permitted action because the conditions about how we knew that thing changed. And then finally, we actually shall disclose information if we're ordered to. So the NDA might say that if a court or a regulatory body directs you to disclose, then you shall disclose the information. Maybe the obligation is you shall oppose the disclosure. But again, that provision is very common. But this idea that depending on the circumstances, the very same behavior can either be prohibited, permitted, or required.